It's a third away trip in a row for Queen's Park Rangers this Saturday afternoon, with Julian Stephan's side headed to 5th place Coventry City. So I caught up with John Dawkins from That Cov Pod to get his take on the Sky Blues summer business, ambitions for the campaign, and unbeaten start to the season. I'll also be giving my thoughts on QPR in the second half, so make sure you stay tuned in for that. If you're new to Hoopsa, my name's Connor and I talk about all things QPR, so if you enjoy this match preview and you'd like to see more, make sure you hit like and subscribe, and let's get into it. Hi John, first of all, thank you very much for joining me for this Coventry v QPR preview. How are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. I'm actually in Queen's Park. That's where my office is. So it's nice to be talking about a local side, playing my local side where I grew up. So yeah, pleasure to be on.
Yeah, great to have you. Now, I wanted to start by speaking about last season. First of all, very much one of two halves. Frank Lampard taking over in late December after another fairly slow start and then guiding the Sky Blues to a narrow playoff semi-final loss to Sunderland. So what was the feeling amongst fans at the end of last season?
I think the fact that we made the playoffs and got as far as we did, we were kind of pleased with that. Obviously, the disappointment of passing Sunderland off the park across certainly the second leg. It was disappointing to go out the way that we did with virtually the last head of the ball in the game. But pleased to have got there in many ways. I think the start of last season was very difficult for us. We looked unfit. We made a joke on our podcast. We called it Gravelgate. We were questioning what they were eating. They just didn't look lean or fit at all. And then obviously things played out with Mark Robins, a club legend, which was sad to see him go. And then the club were in a very difficult place. Frank came in and really, you have to give props to him. He kind of organised the side fairly quickly, got them up to speed fitness-wise, and then we went on a club record 10 win in a row run and got us bang into position at the end of the season, which, to be honest, I don't think many of us saw coming. So disappointing to fall at that hurdle again, but also genuinely pleased and excited going into this season to see what he could do with a full pre-season, another transfer window, and a fully fit squad firing into the season.
Now, it's been a relatively low-key summer transfer window compared to previous years for Coventry. The only fee so far, £3.5 million for right-back Kane Kesler-Hayden. How are you feeling about the business that's been done? Presumably the core of the squad is there and it's just small additions?
Yeah, I think so. I think sometimes, it's not always about buying players that are the key things. I think it's about keeping certain individuals that we've got. I think bringing in Kesler-Hayden is interesting. It suggests that Milan Van Ewijk would go out the door. Obviously, the window's still open, so I could see the possibility of that happening. I'd like to see us go and get 2 or 3 more. A couple of weeks ago, we were moaning about the strikers. Then we go and put 5 away a week later in a game, and the question marks are then over the defence. But I think by and large, I'm quite happy with what we've got. I do think we need a different option in the 10 area, and certainly another striking option and maybe a centre half. But I think it's more about keeping what we've got and maybe adding 1 or 2. So let's just see what happens in the next 10 days.
Coventry are off to an unbeaten start this season, 2 wins and a draw in the Championship and League Cup. Admittedly, it's a very tiny, small sample size, but I make that your best start to a Championship season since your return to the division in 2020. How are you feeling about what you've seen so far?
It's all right. It's quite a low bar, though, Connor, I will say. I mean, we've had some shocking starts, to be honest. But I think, listen, it's okay. We saw some green shoots away at Derby. Obviously, we were largely in control of that game, then went behind. We'd normally fold at that point. So psychologically, it was a mass improvement. Half the side scored goals. Each one was an individual scorer. That'll build confidence. Confidence is crucial with certainly our front 3, if you like. I think we play a similar setup to you, 4-2-3-1, with the inverted fullbacks playing the triangles with the wide men. But I think QPR can be a little bit more pragmatic and go longer. I think the introduction of Kone for you will be interesting. Chair is always an interesting player at this level. Certainly, I think his talent is far better than what this level is, but he still finds himself there. And then Dembele from the right as well could cause us some problems with our left back area. That seems to get targeted a little bit, maybe unfairly, but due to the size of our left back. So I think it'll be an interesting tussle on Saturday. I remember the game from 2 seasons ago, last game of the season, when QPR just about survived, and they played us off the park by and large.
Yeah, now you've covered the players that you think could cause Coventry some problems. Who can cause QPR issues on Saturday?
Well, there's a number of things. Again, we set up the same way as you do, 4-2-3-1. We got good wide areas. Mason Clark came in last season. I don't think he was. I think he started poorly in the poor side, though, to be honest, and then grew into the season. Scored last week. Looks a real threat on the left-hand side. The forwards for us who go through the middle are a bit of a mixed bag, to be honest. Hadji Wright can just disappear in games, but pull out of nowhere a goal. I think he'll guarantee us 15 plus goals this season, depending if he can stay fit. He'll be a threat for you. And then obviously Jack Radoni, Mr. Feetabix himself. He for me at his age is somebody that will go on to the top level. Lots of people sniffing around him, creates chances week in, week out. But there's goals can come from anywhere in that side, as we saw at the weekend. 5 separate scorers. There's good options off the bench, but it's about getting them firing. It's a bit Jekyll and Hyde at the top end of the pitch for us at the minute, and we need more consistency there. But those 3 key individuals there will be a problem. People obviously talk about Thomas Asante from time to time, but he's a very, very mixed bag. They're playing him out wide right at the minute because obviously Sakamoto's out, which will be a bonus for QPR. Certainly down to CBS, which is a slightly wider pitch than Loftus Road. Our wide men will get used a lot. But there'll be threats down the flank and through the middle for sure.
Well, John, thank you so much for joining me for this preview chat. To round us off, let's get your score prediction for Saturday.
I think a lot of people are getting a bit carried away after, with 4 points on the board, I've heard 2s and 3-0. I think it'll be a tight game. I think it'll be a 2-1 game. But I look at the stats and I speak to a couple of QPR fans that I know, Evan Cooper-Davies, Boise, a few other lads. They said they did all right at Watford. It wasn't as clean cut as it looked. I think they were in the game. They had more possession, certainly passed a lot more than they did, had chances. So I think it'll be a tight game. And like I say, with game changers like Chair, anything can happen. Depends which version of him turns up, right? So, yeah, 2-1, tight game, Cov.
Thank you very much, John. Well, I appreciate you coming on and all the best for the rest of the season.
And to you, Connor, top man.
Thank you again to John for joining me for this preview. You can check out That Cov Pod and give John a follow in the description down below. It feels like it's been a bit of a quieter week for QPR compared to the past few before it, certainly from a signings perspective, but there have been a few goings on off the pitch. First off, with Daniel Benny agreeing a new contract with the club on Monday, and according to West London Sport, Liam Morrison soon set to follow. That same article also suggested that Mickey Frey is close to agreeing a new deal following a year's extension at the start of the summer, not one I personally understand given he's not set to have any involvement on the pitch at all until after the international break, but I suppose there's a potentially 3rd or 4th option striker now the club may be looking to avoid a high turnover of players in a year's time. West London Sport also reiterated that Paul Smith was offered a new deal, which he has so far not signed, which does make me wonder whether he would explore a move away from QPR in the final week of the window if one was to materialise. Of course, by far the biggest news is outside of W12, with the transfer that has so far refused to be done looking like it's finally nearing completion. In fact, by the time you see this, it may already be officially done. On Wednesday morning, Abere Eze looked set for Spurs for 60 million. By Wednesday afternoon, he looked like he was going to be involved in a Richarlison player swap, but by Wednesday night, it was in fact Arsenal that had swooped in to beat their rivals to his signature, agreeing a £67.5 million deal with Crystal Palace to bring him back to his boyhood club. Now, I think Arsenal makes a lot more sense for Eze, but more importantly for us, QPR's sell-on clause is reported to be 15% of the Eagles' profit, likely meaning that ours will be receiving somewhere in the region of £6 to £7 million, depending on whether certain add-on clauses were met. That puts Eze in QPR's top 5 highest sales twice over, and depending on whether the board decide to let Christian Nori spend it, or if they pocket it to stem their hefty monthly loss of cash as he inferred at the fan forum, it could well round off what I think has been a pretty solid transfer window so far. For me, that money obviously has to go into bringing in a left back and a number 8, both of which I think would transform this side if we bring in the right players, though the temptation to throw it at Southampton for the already exiled Ronnie Edwards is pretty real too. Whether we use it all or not, it's QPR. There will undoubtedly be some more signings before the window shuts, so fingers crossed we get those last bits of business right. Now looking to Coventry this Saturday, it's hard for me to feel too optimistic for this one right now. They continue to look a really solid Championship side under Lampard, and unlike previous seasons, they haven't struggled so far to get going. Jimmy Dunn is set to return, which should give us a big boost, but whether that means he'll come straight in for a start or be eased in off the bench as we've seen with Jonathan Varane and Richard Kone is the question. If the three of those players can come straight in, you're hopefully looking at a very different QPR side to the one that started at Watford. I'd also like to see us start Escudina again. He looked lively off the bench last week, and while I appreciate that Amadou Mabenge was likely started there to protect the Brazilian against who they thought would be Kwadwo Bar, I'd rather we have players in their natural positions than already starting to fit square pegs into round holes. The biggest area I hope we'll see something different though is in centre mid, because if we play Sam Field and Nicholas Madsen together for the third game running, we're going to get torn through all over again. If Dunn does start, we've got Kieran Morgan as an option as the 8, and if Varane has trained well after his cameo last weekend, he comes straight in as the 6 for me. So, as usual, let's round off with a score prediction. If I'm being honest, this is one of those games where I fear a thrashing, but usually we don't come out too badly from those. Derby did put 3 past the Sky Blues last week, and Hull took a 0-0 draw away in their opening Championship fixture, but I just feel like Coventry are so much stronger in every department. We feel messy at the back, and I just struggle to see us winning points here. So I hate to say it, but I'm going 3-1 to Coventry. Anyway, now it's over to you. How do you think this match will play out? What do you think the score will be? Let me know your predictions in the comments down below. Thank you very much for tuning in for this match preview. If you liked what you've seen and you're not already subscribed to Hoopsa, please consider doing so. And hopefully I'll catch you next time for my match reaction. Come on, you Ars.